Oh, guess what? It's an askLRR for the hottest month of the year so far, June of 2021. Welcome to this podcast where we, the three of us, answer your questions that you submitted earlier in the month. I'm Beej, and with me on my left, your right is
Cori.
Yes.
I'm Cori.
And on my opposite side is
Nelson.
Great.
Yep.
We've dialed it all in. Happy to be here and answering more questions again for you guys. And like everything we do, this and all the other things are brought to you by you, thanks to your support at our Patreon, which is patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. You can go check out, join the over 2,600 people now, I think. We had a huge boost of people join in, and you're like, you might look and be like, wow, that's great. You know, they're making a lot of money. It's like, yes, because we have to pay like almost 20 people or more than 20 people these days. Like there's all sorts of employees and contractors and renting the moon base and paying for all sorts of other stuff. And you're helping to make that happen. And we really do appreciate it. We're not the normal YouTube kind of thing, are we?
Or at least that's what Big Lur wants you to think.
I pray for the day that there is a Big Lur.
It's you, Beej. You're Big Lur.
I'm Big Lur, yes.
I'm the Big Lur.
Burke Bigler. I was told that we should at some point come up with, those of us who are like, I'm the business manager, and Ian has been trying to push me to adopt business Mazinger as my title. And if we're allowed to choose our own titles, maybe I'll just choose Big Lur. Just I love it when you call me Big Lur. But this is also the fault of everybody who watches us on YouTube, which is where we ply a lot of our trade. And if you are, if you're watching this on the main channel, youtube.com/LoadingReadyRun, you can join the YouTube memberships. That's where we draw a lot of these questions from, as we ask everybody on YouTube. It's like, this is your opportunity to ask us questions. So that's your perk. You pay us some money every month. That gives you a chance to ask us stuff, and we will address that as they are being asked. And I guess we should just get started on doing that. Paul, what's our first question? What's your favorite summer snack to cool down? Asks Eric. Who wants to go first? Should I maybe do it?
I'll do it.
Okay.
This one's a great way to start a meal, start a gathering, and in this case, start a podcast. Beer. I find it really refreshing. It's not for everyone. Don't consume it if you aren't the legal drinking age, or just if you're smart and want to stay that way. But it's how I like to cool down.
Is beer that much more effective than, I don't know, water that's been cooled in the fridge?
Not at all. Probably it's worse. It like dehydrates
worse.
you a bit and kills your brain cells.
Okay.
I'm not trying to say that it's the best summer snack to cool down. The question is, what's your favorite?
Oh, that's a good point.
I may be drunk, but I'm also literate.
That's fair. My favorite summer snack to cool down is a big bowl of water that I set on the floor that I put my feet in. I'm not technically eating anything, but I can.
I was going to ask about that step. Like, what happens next?
I can
Your,
only
do your roots like draw nutrients? And moisture
Actually, my
from
feet
it?
have been softer than they have been in a very long time. It's like, oh, the skin of my feet is so nice. But I'm one of those people that, I don't know if this is like neuropathy or what the hell this is, but I'm one of those people that like their extremities run hot, and especially feet at night. I can't have hot feet and sleep with them, but they always turn out hot. So Cori's on the same. Yeah. So I have now taken to putting a giant tub of water in the fridge and then pulling it out and then trying to put my feet in it. And it's like 4 degrees Celsius and it's just absolute frigid. And I get cramps in my hamstrings.
I almost did that yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
But I instead settled for ice pack and a towel.
Oh!
And also, I was going to be like, haha, my favorite snack is water. But I was going to keep like soft serve as a backup. It's like, I really like ice cream.
Right.
Yeah, one of
like
us should have a
soft-serve ice
food,
cream.
right?
Yeah.
I guess that's true. Like, I don't...
Is it a food if liquid, like, is a solid liquid a food?
Ice cream is a food.
Because it's... Yeah? Yeah.
Because you can drink it, but, you know,
But that's like
Does that-
the yop, right? Yop is like yogurt
Yeah.
that's been thinned out to be or kefir, I guess, is maybe a better way
Right.
to take that.
But like, you know, just because you can have a strawberry banana smoothie doesn't mean strawberries and bananas aren't food. So ice cream's a food.
Smoothies are also good.
Yeah.
I'm not a slushy person, but I like a smoothie.
If I was going to respect the game, I would go with watermelon. It's been a big time favorite. I like that you can get a watermelon that's like it's self-insulating, right? Like you can buy a watermelon at room temperature and take it home, and then you just cut it. You don't have to put it in the fridge, and somehow it's kind of cold, like a little, or it makes
Yeah.
you feel cold.
It
right?
makes you feel cold. Yeah, okay, I can buy that. I've never eaten like a watermelon fresh out of the field, so I have no idea if,
Oh well.
you know, because I mean, if you're going to go buy a watermelon, you're probably not buying it like on the street, right? You're buying it from like a supermarket where
Yeah.
it's been already brought down to a certain temperature.
But just out of a big cardboard box, like not
Yeah.
out of a fridge. Like you're just buying it at room temperature.
That's true.
So, and then you take it home through the heat, and then you cut it immediately, and you're like, refreshing watermelon. But like, wait, that's just room temperature food. How does it do that? Magic melon, it should be called. Water magic. Let's get one clean take of that. It's magic watermelon magic.
Because every conversation we have with Nelson does not always devolve into magic, but this is one of them. So
Magic.
Eldrazi
It could have to
Jund
do
melon.
with, you know, the heat capacitance of water, right?
Yes.
Like you're eating water.
yeah,
So water is a food.
Yeah, we're not going to get around it.
All right.
man, it's funny because like I really like watermelon and have completely forgotten to get any watermelon for years.
It's still good.
Watermelon is a thing for me that parents buy.
Yeah.
It's a lot of effort.
I sure
Yeah.
hadn't bought one until I had kids. That's true. I don't think I ever bought a watermelon
Yeah.
until I had babies. Like,
And you're like, you know what they
Yeah.
love is this thing that I used to love too and ate all the time. Why have I stopped eating it? So
yeah, that happened.
I wouldn't say salad is my favorite because it's your favorite, right? Like salad's a good way to cool down in the summer. Eating anything that doesn't require a lot of heat to prepare definitely is a good thing to have. But yes, salad's not my favorite. But frozen yogurt I guess is good too.
Oh, we eat cold noodles all the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
What is it, soba?
Yeah, zaru soba I think is the
Yeah.
cold one. Yeah.
Do you like cook and prepare like pad thai or whatever, and then just put it in the fridge, or what do you do?
it's
You just eat them
a
straight out of the
buckwheat
freezer?
noodle,
Yeah.
and you immerse it in ice water after you cook it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, really
And
hot
then-
and then really cold.
Right.
There's a separate like dunking sauce that's also chilled.
Nice. Okay.
What do you have that with normally?
By itself.
Oh, okay. It's
Just like 4 human-sized servings of buckwheat noodles.
Okay.
Just
Oh,
like you get like a big metal bowl full of noodles.
you know what I love during the summer? Actually, now that I think about it, one of my favorite things to have when I'm having a meal in the summer: sunamono salad.
Thought you weren't gonna go with salad.
I wasn't going to. I was like, salad's not the thing to do. But right, no, sunamono salad because it's not really salad. It's you know,
It's a bunch
glass
of
noodles.
fish, right? Or
No, it
noodles? No.
can be, but it's glass noodles and usually like cucumber and sometimes crab or pollock. But it's all
Right.
floating in like this really cold vinegary sauce. It's not sauce; it's broth. It's soup, dressing. It's floating in vinegar, rice
Right.
vinegar or whatever. And it's like always when they serve it at like some restaurants when it comes out and it's super cold. It's like it's the best thing to have before a meal, for a Japanese meal anyway. But yeah,
All right.
all right, I've effectively weaved out.
Okay, I think we did every part of that question. That's
Great.
all. Yeah.
Corey.
Oh, I can take this one.
Oh no, I was going to say Corey was going to read it, but Nelson
Oh,
can read
perfect.
it then. Let's do
No,
that.
okay.
Yeah, Nelson, tell us, what is the writing process for absurdist comedy? It seems like a much harder thing to write than observational comedy.
I'm good at podcasts. So I hoped that I would be able to answer this. Like I'm going to talk, obviously, but I hope that I have the right qualification for this. I feel that my work on like Friday nights writing crap shots counts as like the kind of absurdist stuff that we've done. So I'm showing up and I'm having the same kind of a work day, whether I'm writing absurdist comedy or writing like a a linear sort of sitcom situation, because we will do both in the writing meetings that both of you also have attended and regularly work on. So I wanted to say that, like, just to talk about our writing process at LRR, because I've really enjoyed it, and I'm a relative newbie, of course. It's just like, it's really neat when you get an idea for something and you kind of think how you think you know how it's going to work, and then you pass it into the meeting, and then someone else kind of has a different take on it, and maybe doesn't have, like, obviously they can't have the exact same point of view, but maybe has like a really perpendicular point of view to how this joke was supposed to fly, and then you together you end up with something like hopefully beautiful and funny, but like not what either of you were trying to do. My favorite example is just, we wrote a crap shot. I can't remember if it was called The Lunch or The Cheat Day or something, but it was just two coworkers, and one of them walks in on the other one at lunch, and they're just eating a full head of cauliflower. And,
Yes.
and my idea for that joke was just that's going to be the joke. Like, I believe
That's where
I
I
brought
would've
that one.
stopped. Yeah.
I brought that one in. It was just like, one person's like looking at what to have for lunch, and I was like, I don't know, whatever, and then closes the fridge, then looks over, and it's just like someone's just mowing down on a head of cauliflower, and that's it. And then they say, like, are you really eating that? Or sorry, are you on one of those fad diets? But then Graham came up with this idea to add, yeah, but it's cheat day.
Yeah.
And it's just on like the opposite side of that, where like now the person eating the cauliflower doesn't feel that what they're doing is part of their weird fad. Now they feel like this is what they're doing for fun. So it turned it on its head. So yeah, it's a group process, I guess, is the TLDR.
I feel like anytime you write comedy, there's always, you always go in search of the twist, obviously, because comedy is just that defiance of expectations, but in a way that delights people when it surprises them. Because the defiance of expectations can show up in like drama or in any sort of other things, like a suspense movie or whatever. We thought, like, oh, he was dead the whole time, or the village actually takes place in whatever, or the trees have been killing him or whatever. It's like those twists have always been like, oh, but that's in service of this dramatic horror plot or whatever. Whereas the twists that we want to write have to be, what's the delightful idea of what's the thing that when you hear it you realize, oh, I didn't expect that, and you smile because you were like, I didn't expect that. That's what delighted me. I mean, a lot of people laughed at the happening as well, I guess, so I shouldn't really not call that comedy. Unintentional comedy. But yeah, absurdist comedy, whenever we when we did the Peel, Cori,
Yeah.
and the idea of the long setup that everyone knew, you can see it coming, and you're like, well, what do you do? And it's like, well, an absurd take would be that we play it out all the way to the point where he gets the banana peel, and then he does step on it, slips, and he hurts himself, because you take so long building that up that the expectation is nothing's going to happen to this guy because he'll step over it. And then
or something will happen, but not getting punched in the face by someone dressed as a banana.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing, is when you kind of like start taking steps beyond, like, what's the level 0 to this joke? Well, we've all seen it because it's all, I slipped in a banana peel. The level 1 is like, oh, well, what's the misdirect? What's the take it and turn it? And then if you kind of move beyond that, it's not about like, oh, we built a joke several layers deep. It's like, no, you've webbed off in another way off of that 0 joke to be like, this is gone in a completely different direction. And I don't know if observational comedy generally has that same kind of punch, but good observational comedy, I think, is harder to write because you need to be able to take people along for the ride with you. Like, I've listened to Kyle Kinane tell these great stories about how he told a story about how he bought a life-size doll of a man from a real sketchy dude for 85 cents on the side of the road, and he decided to put it in his buddy's bed, in his roommate's bed, because he would be like, this will be great because it'll freak him the fuck out. And how it starts is this dude burst out of the side of his van and went, hey man, you like Halloween? And the whole thing builds to this fever pitch of Kyle getting more and more stoned throughout the weekend while he's waiting for his buddy to fly back from wherever he's from. But every time he walks past his roommate's bedroom, he gets scared by the dude who's in the bed who's not his buddy. And he starts to have paranoid fantasies. And the whole thing ends with his buddy seeing it and stopping for like half a second and be like, what the fuck is in my bed? Like, he's not scared at all. And turns around and Kyle is just completely paranoid and fried by this point. And he just goes, you like Halloween? And that's the twist of the joke, right? It's like he became the crazy dude that sold the thing. And I'm like, right, this long story that ultimately ends in a great twist that's just was already set up before. And I'm like, that's not absurdist in as much as that's just really good writing to get from end to end. It's of a thing that happened to him, a real thing, and he tells the story. And I'm like, absurdist comedy, I think, works where you don't see the end bit coming, or you weren't prepared for it because of the thing that happens earlier, and you get a different kind of laugh. That's how I feel. I don't know if that's really the same thing.
Yeah, like I think delight is really what I wish to aim for. Like I just like weird words and word combinations and word flavors, as well as like funny imagery, right? Like you can't. I guess we could exaggerate real things that really happen to us, but we'd also need to have maybe more different experiences than we currently do.
That's true. Yeah, you gotta hand it to the people who have been writing sitcoms to work with this, because they recognize that this is such an unusual position that what can you do to make this a funny element and actually utilize the medium, I guess, to be like, well, how do we do a funny sitcom story that isn't just like a bunch of people yelling at each other at a meeting?
Or it's sad because they're alone.
Yeah, yeah.
How do we find more beats, more different flavors of this, right?
Yeah.
I think I want to get back to the group dynamic thing, because it's like, the writing process can be a solo endeavor. And oftentimes, like, our sketches will start with one person having a mostly fleshed out idea. Like, they bring the idea and they're like, I have this beat and this punchline, and maybe it's done. Maybe sometimes everybody loves it. Like, if Cam writes something, usually we just kind of tell him to write it down after he's told us, and then we do it. If I write something, I'm like, I have this and this, and then I was thinking, is that good? And then Graham's like, no. But but like, for the absurdist part, it's like, if you have 10 people in a room, you can get away with like finding the right pockets of the weird sense of humor. It's like, because we've all got our own sense of humor, and we might like absurdist comedy, all of us like some of it. Not everyone's gonna like, I think, every Kids in the Hall sketch, right? But like, you'll like some of them probably. There's a few that are like great, you think, and then there's some where you're just like, this is so weird. You could explain to me why it's funny, but I still wouldn't laugh, right?
Yeah.
But if you have the group, it's like, okay, if you just have 2 people in the same room out of like 10 people, or sometimes, geez, back in the day, 14 people or whatever, maybe, then it's like, if two of those people are like, oh yeah, like one person's talking, the other person's laughing a lot, then you're like, okay, there's clearly something here, and you get that feedback loop,
Yeah, what are people responding to?
Yeah.
Or why do we find? I mean, we've never had to write scripts, I think, where we were like, I don't know why it's funny, but everyone else, I'm sure our fans will think it's funny. That's never, I think, happened once. I don't think anybody can write comedy in that kind of mercenary way.
Right.
I mean, unless you're a Hollywood writer and you just know that it's like, I know my audience has to enjoy this. It doesn't matter if I would enjoy this. Are we good then?
Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cori, what would you advise to someone interested in making digital music like you? Complete noob, but would like to start.
Well, it's difficult to do it exactly like I do it. It involves years of trying very hard and not getting very far. But you'll probably want to start by looking at the Wikipedia page for digital audio workstations, or DAWs, and trying out a bunch of different tools. Like, I collect tools that I'm not even going to like recommend. It's just like, I have like 5 different text editors. Nobody needs that. And I have a guitar I never use, so there's also that. And I have a bunch of synth stuff that I never use. But maybe someday, all of this stuff that I have will be useful.
It's largely about the it's largely about play, isn't it? Right? That it's like you get struck with an idea and you're like, boy, I really would like to hear how that sounds.
Very much so. Sometimes I get Ian to help me a little bit because I don't know anything about like bass lines.
Oh, right.
And I don't really have like a formal education of any kind, but I do know how to make Adobe Audition, do text to speech, and do pitch bending, and rip apart a MIDI to get different instrument tracks, and then use like Ableton to swap what the instruments are. And I've been taking courses at, what is it, Audible Genius? Doing the building blocks thing. So I've done a little bit of trying to hear drum patterns.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and
yeah,
repeat them.
It's funny because I guess I have a formal music education since I took band for 6 years in school, and then I played violin for years, and I also played keyboard for a year, and I like did all these things for many years, and largely has not been that, like, all of that stuff was great, but in no way I think would it have prepared me to actually compose my own music or do anything along that line. But I definitely like when I was in jazz band, I decided I would tear apart some. I wanted to play some Sailor Moon songs because that's who I am, and so I I tore apart some MIDIs to try to figure out where are all the different lines. What can we do with this? Because a lot of them are mostly rock songs anyway. Like, can we compose something for our jazz band? And I would tear them apart, and I would see what the MIDIs, like all the different lines looked like, and I'd be like, well, what am I going to get the trombones to do? Well, we're going to give them this part. They get the bass part, but now they need some other things to do, so they should have this part. And then I had to start moving things around and be like, the trumpets need. We can't all just play the melody and have a couple people play the harmony and be done. It would be crazy. We need to move things around so that there's different energy in different parts of the song and stuff. And you start thinking about things in that way. And that's when you're trying to do live performance. Obviously, when you're making digital music that'll be purely digital, you don't have that kind of restriction. You can be like, anybody can play anything, and it'll be great. So. And it was a lot of work trying to understand that and trying to make sense of it. I don't think I'd want to go back to making music or even composing music or like doing any of those kind of things.
A lot of hard, mostly unpaid work. I have a formal degree in music, but I've like never touched any of the electronic composition side of it. That just like wasn't part of my degree, and I just haven't done a ton of music since university. But I, a lot of it I'm a big fan of. Like I love that we have computers for making music now, and I will dance to the sounds they make.
That's
my whole input.
Hang on.
Sorry.
Do you have like a BFA in music?
I have a B Muse from UVic. Yeah, I play the trombone, and I can perform at like a, I don't know, close to professional level. On
the fact that you have a degree in trombone, like that blows me away. Because I knew you played the trombone. I didn't know you had a degree in trombone.
I'm like not bad at trombone. Yeah.
Well,
and I have like written some classical and some jazz music, not like a ton. Like, I didn't have to write a ton of school. I've done a little bit of paid work as a musician, but it's like, it's a tough career for sure. And yeah, I definitely would sympathize with anyone getting into trying to orchestrate for jazz band, like from scratch. Like that's tough. It was
not a good outcome. Like rather, it was an acceptable outcome.
If you got your jazz band to play a Sailor Moon song that you like lifted either by ear or because you had access to the MIDI files, that's fantastic. Good for you. I don't even need to hear it to tell you that it was fantastic that you did that. And your band teacher was in love with you when they found out that you did that. They were like, "Holy shit, this Brendan kid with the hair, He just put together a chart for jazz band.
He was definitely he liked me enough that he let me do it. That was the thing. And then after that, I'm sure it was like, wow, you actually really did it. Good for you. So,
Yeah, no, he was very impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cori, you've done you did the Vengabus remix
Yeah.
that everyone enjoys. You did another thing though too that
Serge Eats the Chicken.
Right.
Serge Eats the Chicken.
Which is one of the things that Ian helped me with, because...
You need a bass line for it.
Yeah. Mostly, other than that, just like kind of just dirtling on my own. I think, like, a fun place to start for someone who doesn't even want to, like, invest in a big computer thing would be, like, one of these pocket operators.
Oh, cool.
That Teenage Engineering makes.
What
They're the
even is
company
that?
making the Playdate. This is just a little... It's got, like, a little sequencer in it.
Okay.
And it is loaded with specifically, like, arcade noises. I just don't have the batteries for it right now.
Okay.
But you can do a lot, and it's got some line out stuff, so you can side load it.
And the idea for that is you write a sequence, you write a melody that you like, and then you write like maybe a harmony that goes with it. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also like live play stuff that you can do where you like twiddle the effects that are on different notes or patterns or things like that.
Yeah.
I
And
definitely
they've
would.
got lots of different little things.
I would at some point like to get to play with one of those little pads that I see all the DJ kids with, where it's like an iPad, but it's just a brightly lit screen, and they like put their finger on it, and they can either tap it or they can move it around.
Moog has some like iPad apps
Oh,
that
nice!
you can do
just
that
get it
have
on
like
iPad.
chaos pads and stuff in them.
Chaos pad is the word I was thinking of.
I think
Actually, I thought
trying to think of it.
someone has one. Does Alex?
Sure, maybe
probably.
I know that GarageBand for the iPad actually has a Chaos Pad style thing where you can can get stuff going, and then you can be like, okay, now I'm just gonna play with a whole bunch of Skrillex sounds and shit and make my own dubstep, and which is all I did that for like 20 minutes. I picked it up one time and just started playing with it, and I was like, this is so fun. You can make the kind of music that I don't enjoy. This is really cool.
Well, I know what I'm doing after this. I already have Rock Band. That's great. I didn't know there was chaos pads on it.
Let's
45 minutes later, I can't find the chaos pad.
Yeah. All right. What hobby or interest of yours are you glad to be able to keep as a you-only thing? No streaming it, etc. No sharing it with the public. No letting anyone know that you ever would do this, I suppose. Thank you, Michael. It's funny. As far as hobbies go, like when I was in school, boy, did I have hobbies, right? Oh, I play this music, and I like to play video games, and I read the comic books, and it's like in these days I'm like, I don't have anything that I do anymore. Like I read a lot of manga online, and I guess that's a thing I don't stream, so there you go, everybody.
But you talk about it constantly.
Yes!
I think that counts as sharing it.
Right? I'm going to end up doing a thing at some point in this coming week, which maybe this will come out after the week, I don't know, where I'm going to talk about anime a whole bunch, and it's like, but I stream that shit, so I don't know if I have anything left.
I wanted to share that like when these questions went out, I don't think I had streamed Valorant much, like maybe once before, but then I streamed Valorant for like 3 hours the other night, and I play Valorant like every week for 3 to 6 hours, something like that, in like little pockets whenever I can. But I hadn't been streaming it much because it's like I know my viewers on my home stream, which isn't super active anyway, but it's like people seem to be more interested to talk about Magic, which makes sense. But then I started doing that in my last stream went kind of well, so it's like the weird reality is like, you know, everything you do, it's like it's your hobby, and then if you really like it, you're gonna kind of, at least seems to be my track, and I think a lot of like performers and internet content creators is like, well, I'm just start working on this now and turn it into my job, and then naturally after that you're gonna start to hate it. But the flip side though is that I think you, the listener and viewer, like deserve some credit here, because specifically our community is just like wildly supportive. So I think anyone in LRR, like, you know, we literally have a channel that's like, what game do you want to play? It can be anything, and we're going to let you have a stream where you play that game like 3 times a week for as long as you want, and like you can pick any game. It can even be Betrayal at Crondor, and then like you can just do that. You can do that for like
22
like
sessions,
2-3 weeks maybe of full-time work, kind of like It's wild, and the viewers will show up and will support you, and it's like, thank you, LRR fans. It's
850 people showed up one night. I
Yeah.
couldn't understand why. I think it was raids.
They had a feeling that was the betrayal night. I don't know.
Maybe it was like way late in the game too. It's like all these people showed up and then they didn't leave, and I'm like, I don't know why you're still here, but great. Watch me farm for restoratives, I guess. Whatever.
Hang out with you, Beej. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing. They're hanging.
Fair.
Yeah.
I
Cori,
put a bunch of stuff in a jar and it died
Okay.
this week.
Are they pickles?
Now, it was a pickle jar.
Yeah.
It's labeled as Jarfield 2021. There was some grass and moss and rocks.
The rock side
There
too.
used to be it's like some darkling beetle, some spiders, like 5 or 6 isopods, like had some of the milk cows as well as the armadillo ones.
Holy crap!
Like,
Is that seems?
I
like
was filming it anyways to put online.
That's so many things to put in a jar.
Yeah.
Are isopods roly polies? Is that
Yeah.
okay? My kids pick them up all the time, but I thought maybe that was the same thing. They have a few.
They're a
names.
land-bound crustacean.
Right, and apparently they're good for like consuming toxic minerals or something, or like they're
Something.
They
yeah.
eat something that like we really appreciate that they eat.
They eat like decaying plant matter and fungus and stuff.
That's
What? So, I didn't know you like to keep terrariums.
Yes.
Is that
This is something I haven't done in a long time.
okay?
sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I hear about people doing that, it's always surprising me. I'm like, I don't know if I'd have the patience to let a thing like that. But I guess it's you put it all together and then you just let it go and then look at it every so often.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the intent. Just make sure you have a nice little balanced system, plenty of springtails,
An ecosystem.
and then you take it up to 38 degrees centigrade. And
So it becomes an experiment at that point. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
which of these things live?
Ian was like, "Oh, now you're making a mold jar," and I'm like, "I guess I'm making a mold jar now."
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cold as ice, Ian.
I feel like there's something about doing creative work that maybe there's just something about when you do creative work that when you give into the variety of it, that you don't always feel like when I had an office job, being able to come home and do this stuff was my hobby, right? It was like, I'm getting paid for this, but also being able to, go to LoadingReadyRun on the weekends and do stuff was like, this is what I want to do, is I want to make some funny stuff and make people laugh and have a great time. That's a great hobby to have. And now that it's my full-time job and involves a bunch of other things that I have to do as well, it's like, I get that creative part itched. Maybe I don't feel like maybe that's why musicians can, even though it's a tough life, it's like musicians and artists and stuff are like, I'm willing to lean into this for as long as I can because it's good. But I mean, I've also heard that, especially now, hearing that animators are getting just shit on a lot, that trying to crank out, if you're an artist or an illustrator or an animator, it's like, people are coming forward to be like, this is killing us. It's driving us out of the industry because we're not getting paid enough to keep doing the work. And I'm just like, oh, that's not right. That's unfortunate. It's hard to get money to spread around too. So yeah. Okay. Maybe not enough of the downer. Maybe we should go on to another question. Shit.
It's like a weird flip side of mental health, right? It's like the mental health can go either way. It's like it's good for your mental health and it's also bad for your mental health.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Holy shit. Yeah. I was like,
Sorry.
wow.
Sorry.
No,
Hey.
it's good. The existential problem really gets to me.
Yeah. Beej, you may have noticed this past year has been slightly totally awful for everyone. You may have noticed.
Yes, I have.
What have been your go-to comfort foods, whether homemade or shop-bought, to see you through the dark times?
I don't like to. One thing we did this year, let's start with something more positive. One thing we did this year is because we knew we couldn't get out that often to do things, is that I had said to Heather, I'm like, I think it is good for us to order out from a restaurant or anywhere local once a week. because normally she's going to Starbucks, or we'll do this, or we'll end up at like bin 4 with a bunch of people, or like those kind of things. And we never used to do that a lot anyway. But it's like we're not going to do it. Let's actually like eat out once a week. And we kind of kept to that. It's just a thing to be like, this is a great way to interrupt whatever. And like, then our favorite Chinese food place shut down for 6 months with no explanation. I thought they would never come back, but they're back again. So delivery Chinese food is kind of I really like that. I would definitely have that. And it's not like the fanciest Chinese food in town or whatever. It's from Young's restaurant on Quadra, and it's so good. They do such good stuff that we like. But everything I cook is comfort food. I don't make like, shallots and aubergine and like, and lobster thermidor and like all sorts of complicated shit. I don't do that once a week, right? I don't even do roast chicken or roast beef. I used to do that like once a month when I was living by myself, just as a reminder of what I used to eat when I was with my parents. It's like, no, it's like, we're going to have curry tonight. We're going to have curry tonight. We're going to have hamburgers tonight. We're going to have hamburgers tonight. We're going to have like mac and cheese with beef in it. And I'm going to like boil some broccoli and chop that up and throw it inside with the thing. We're going to have a 1-pot casserole. I'm going to do that. Like everything I make is a comfort food, which probably explains why I'm the size that I am. But I think that's part of what 2020 was like, is it's just like everything if you're not trying to do stuff to take care of yourself, to try to comfort yourself, then you're really going to feel it. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
I can mention the foods that I've been eating.
All right.
Craft dinner. Make myself some craft dinner when I'm feeling especially bad. Anything that's just like a massive carb load, like poutine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then alcohol.
Right. I forgot.
A lot of alcohol. Which probably explains why I'm the size I am. Beej has a rule of never drinking your calories.
Yeah, it's true.
That's all I drink. No, that's not all I drink. I drink a lot of water and coffee without anything added to it.
Yeah, that's right. I drink black coffee too, because I'm a healthy person. Those people with the cream in their coffee, how dare they?
Shotguns a whole beer.
Yeah,
my parents with their like Keurig thing, and they're doing French vanilla Keurig and then adding non-dairy French vanilla creamer to it.
Why not just eat a cupcake?
Well, it won't wake you up as much,
I guess.
Right. I definitely have been eating poutines, hamburgers, tacos, cake sometimes, mac and cheese, bread, curry, rice. Did I say tacos already?
Yeah. But say it again.
Yeah, I eat a lot of tacos. Like we also order from our local franchises once. It's more than once a week.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of comfort food and some alcohol consumption happening here. I don't know if I have really like a favorite or a go-to. Honestly, the go-to is Taco Time because Kendall likes it and they have something vegan. It's like I have a bunch of vegan places I order from, like if I'm like during the day and I want comfort food, like I really like this burger joint that's all vegan. But there's nothing on the menu. Like Kendall just finds that like everything they make is gross for her. So like that's too bad. But I can get a burrito from Taco Time. It's fine. Marriage is about compromise, kids. At least my marriage.
Yeah.
Maybe your marriage is about getting everything you want. I hope that works out for you. I meant the viewer, not other viewers.
Okay, that's yeah. It's like
I think we all know that mine involves sometimes there's a trumpet in the room next door to you for no reason, or even though it's not picked up by the microphone, a Swanee whistle.
Right. Or I just lit the volcano. That's a comfort food that I did not get into at all in 2020, despite living in God's own weed farm. Come on, like it's one of the few places in the world that where weed is legal, where weed's also named after the entire province. But Yeah, I did not, as a comfort food, did not even partake of any cannabis whatsoever. And I keep thinking that occasionally maybe I should just give that a shot. Just, do that once a week, maybe. That might be fun. Why don't you lean into that a bit? I have not done any of that, so.
You can just mail order it from the government.
Yeah, you can order it on your phone now. Or
I made a whole PSA about it.
Yeah.
And you're over 18.
I am over 18. Next question. Cori, go ahead.
Y'all been doing entertainment thing for a while. How do you think the digital landscape has improved or worsened for content creation? And has the increased contact with the audience benefited or hurt creativity in any way?
Well, you asked it, you answer it.
There's certainly a lot more ways for direct payment from viewers to creators now, even though some of them are a bit messy. But like back in the day, it was like impossible to get someone's money from the US.
Yeah. Even PayPal was a bit of a pain in the ass.
PayPal was horrible.
Yeah.
I've had one forever, and it's just you just hear about people getting their accounts locked for no reason.
Right.
Increased contact with the audience. I think it helps to have a lot of immediate feedback and encouragement. Like it's always very nice to hear from people.
Yeah.
It's like I've done jobs where it's just been like a feedback void where you're just alone working for hours and hours on a thing that no one will ever see and no one wants.
But there's a government grant for it.
Yeah. It's
Right.
just like you're on contract to do this thing.
Yeah.
And it means sitting in a room by yourself until you're finished.
Wow.
The thing that I like more is like the live panel shows at cons and stuff. Like that increased audience thing. I think having an audience at all is also very nice.
Yes, that's true too. That was the thing about doing improv as long as we did at anime cons, is there is a definite rush for that, to just be like, we're doing shows, and not because it wasn't just improv, we were also doing like the 99 yen challenge, we were doing all Doki Doki, I guess turned into that, didn't it, at some point, and just the nature of getting a chance to entertain people in different ways, just even at the conventions was like this super great, like there's people out there and they love us, they're cheering and they're having a great time and they want to meet us and they think that we're so cool because we're doing this, and it's like, yeah, that's super awesome. And now with Loading Ready Run, that the same idea of seeing more from our audience and getting to interact with them more in a lot of different ways is a lot of fun. I think the only when I know that everyone's like, we liked X, give us X2, give us X3, give us X4, and I'm like, this isn't necessarily the Fast and Furious movies that we're making here, right? Like, it's like we gave you X, that doesn't necessarily translate into, okay, so what's X2 going to look like? And it's like, well, I don't know if we're going to actually even make X2. But you all keep asking about it because I know you liked X, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to make the second version of that thing, right? And that's the only real downside I find, is because I'm like, I want to just yell at people like, please stop asking for the second version of something. If we're going to make it, we'll make it. And it's like, no, I got to let you be excited about the thing because you're excited about the first thing. So you're excited about hearing about a second thing. That's great. That's the kind of like, painters would be like, when can I see the Starry Night 2? Somebody would say to a painter, right, to Van Gogh, and he'd be like, I mean, if people liked it, I guess I'd probably paint another one that's like it. Why wouldn't I, right? Like, people would be like that. That's just naturally how it is. It's like, if I know that I have a huge audience, they love the thing, why wouldn't I try to do more of the thing that they want? And we now have a great way of hearing from people about how to do that. I think the biggest downs, like, is for as long as we've been doing entertainment, I think that the digital landscape has, made it easier to get paid, like Cori said, and it's also made it easier to get ourselves out there and noticed by a lot of people, and to let the people who like us be able to meet with each other so they can actually create communities in that too. Because, make no mistake, when you have a community based around the content that you make, that's where the core is knowing that There will be people here who like to consume the stuff that you're making, and they will be your greatest advocates, and we really appreciate that. But I think also where the digital things made it worse is that because now we've democratized that so heavily, anybody can get into content creation. And sometimes I look at who's making content, and I'm looking at I'm looking at their view count or their subscriber count or any kind of count, any kind of number that's available to the public, and thinking to myself, I'm like, why is it that grabbed so many people's imaginations and our stuff hasn't? And so where I think it makes it worse is that I'm like, there's so many people out there making so much stuff that I have to compare myself to now. And that's a very bad habit of mine.
Bad but common.
We all do it.
I would add. Yeah. Sorry, I can't really even jump into this question because I haven't been doing the internet entertainment thing for a long time. But yeah, I will come back. I want to circle back to what Cori said earlier about, Cori, you said like it's great to have the feedback as opposed to having a total feedback void.
Yep.
But we all know that like for a lot of the really big content creators, like especially the people who have been doing things before the time when content creation was more democratized and like everyone was doing it, like big mainstream media moguls from 20 years ago or whatever who are still making content today, like they don't read the comments, like because the comments are like every time there is a comment section it will be like 1 million comments long and a lot of it will be vitriol. But again, yeah, I want to say props to the core of LRR, members and subscribers and listeners and viewers, like the audience, like very readable comments. Thank you.
That's also due to Heather.
Oh,
she reads a lot of the comments, and if you're reading the Discord, she can't do anything about that. But our mods do a lot about that. But
okay,
she does a lot to keep our YouTube comment section readable as well.
Well, I always love thanking the mods, so I guess I should now be aware of how much work they've done for me over the course of the years of reading YouTube comments.
They've taken an awful lot of emotional labor on themselves.
Right.
So thank you for doing that. Yeah. Do we have time for one more question, I think?
Okay. Based on our opinions of each other and the other LRR's people, what Fursonas would you think fits them best? If you want to give your own after shoot, but let each person make your own guesses about you first. So I have not a full list, but I have some impressions.
He looked over at a post-it he has in his monitor.
I did! There's so many people. I read this question a week ago or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I got a few ideas. That'll be fun. I'll answer that question. And then I literally Googled members of LRR, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy, yeah. Who's Nelson?
We have a website.
Yeah, we do.
No, I did. I literally copy and pasted LRR wiki into a text so I could text script so I could be like, who's who. So I got half of these. All right. Paul, you are an owl. Not going to explain any of these. Kathleen is a crow. Alex is a beaver. Cameron is a fox. Beej, you're a honey badger. Heather is an otter. Ian is a moose. Cori, you're a penguin. And yeah, and obviously I missed several names, and I'm sorry I didn't immediately think of what your animal was. / I couldn't decide who was the bear. Just couldn't. Didn't want there to be 5 bears.
We have a lot of bears and some otters, in fact.
Right. Okay. Well, yes. Graham, Adam, Ben, Matt, other Ben.
All bears.
You're all bears. Serge, you're a cougar.
I have heard that according to the community, Graham would not qualify as a bear. He would qualify as an otter, but that's a different sort of.
Oh, well,
it's not technically a fursona. That's just a different terminology.
All right, fair.
So, all right, honey badger. That's interesting. Yeah,
that's where I've got you right now.
I'm just glad I didn't get paired with skunk. No matter how horny I am, I don't think that I deserve to be a skunk.
Maybe if you had the same length, but Adam's available salt and pepper action.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of there. It's hard to see it because it tends to get covered up otherwise. But no, there's a very the one thing I know about the fur community, and I say no in heavy air quotes, is that if you meet somebody who is playing as a skunk, they are very horny, 24/7. So you need to be careful of them because they are that horny all the time. And I'm like, I was unaware that was the thing. Not that they're
I
horny
thought
in
you
like
were
a
judging
destructive way.
based on Pepe Le Pew, like Looney Tunes. I thought you were like, well, I know what skunks represent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but they're just like cats that eat bugs. Come on.
And walk under wet paint and get a big stripe down their back. Yeah.
That's all it takes to be a skunk, turns out.
Anyways, Beej is a wombat.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. I have an unusual mechanism for making cubed poop.
That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, didn't they just solve that recently?
Some sort of Play-Doh Fun Factory type thing they got going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a wombat for reals in an enclosure, and I was unable to see it poop, and I wished I had because I would have liked to have been able to observe, but no, it doesn't poop for like paying customers.
I just found out today there's a marmot that lives in front of the Empress Hotel. I tried to see it. It was, hiding, but apparently it's there. Like it's an institution.
That's really
Yeah.
weird that we have
Rod-
a marmot.
Roger the Marmot. That's next
All
to
right.
next to the honeybees. At the
How
Empress.
long has Roger been around? 40 or 50 years? Like maybe that marmot is dead and they're just telling everybody it's still there.
I think it was like 10 or 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how long a marmot lives for.
That's right. Yeah, maybe.
On the prairie, it's like 2 to 3 years because they inevitably get hunted by
Right.
coyotes or
Birds.
birds. Yeah,
All right.
birds.
Fair
We don't
enough.
have a lot of birds. Did we pick a Fursona for Ian? Because that's how this works.
Oh, I
Nelson said moose, which
Moose?
was just like bang on.
Yeah.
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 Well, yeah. Ian's got this big, powerful, and seems to barely be in control energy.
Very
Like-
affable.
Right?
Kind of.
Like you're listening to him and it's like, well, he's on rails, I think. Like he's
Yeah.
going somewhere, right?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's driving, but it's jangly. Right?
Yeah.
That's my take on it. So
If
yeah,
I-
we need to get him huge antlers for his fur costume.
Do any of us have any other guesses about anybody else, or do we want to just give what we think our own were supposed to be?
I could kind of see Adam being a raccoon, actually.
Yeah.
He would probably like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of him as kind of sneaky.
Sorry, I know silence is bad for a podcast, but I'm just trying to picture Adam as a giant raccoon washing his stuff.
That's okay. Why don't we fold this question into the next askLRR? It's so great. It's like we can get a lot
Just pay
back
it
out
forward.
of this question.
Evergreen
I think so.
idea. Yeah.
I like the idea that the what Fursona best suits which lure folk is can be a well that we dip into in the future. And I've delivered a reasonable introductory foray, but perhaps in the future we'll get to see someone come back with some more closing Fursona arguments, or just stirring the pot or being offended.
I wonder if it's fair. Is it more fair to choose your own Fursona and everyone has to deal with it, or is it more fair to let everybody pick your Fursona for you because it's a fairer representation of who you are as a person? Because there are a lot of foxes and wolves out there, and I'm like, there can't be that many foxes and wolves, like people wise.
Like, I saw a wolf give very good feedback at a post-con panel about the running of the event, and that was lovely.
Mm-hmm. They were very warm too. They were.
That's part of what the complaints were about. but
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing. There, I was like, hell yeah! Like people were like kind of giggling a bit, and I'm like, no, this person has legitimate complaints though. Like,
Yeah.
listen, like, yeah. You know what? You're right. Let's just wrap it up here. I want to thank Cori, Nelson. Thank you for both being on the askLRR this month. That was a lot of fun. Again, if you are interested in posing your own questions to the askLRR, the panel rotates all the time, so the three of us will not be on it next time. It'll be 3 new people. We'll let you know who those people are going to be. Go to youtube.com/LoadingReadyRun. You join the YouTube memberships. That gives you the opportunity to pose us the questions for the askLRR. I also want to thank, or go check out the Patreon as well, patreon.com/LoadingReadyRun. But you can also go check out our store for merchandise. It's store.loadingreadyrun.com. I want to thank Paul Guess for doing the production of this. Thank you to the editing team for editing the things because they'll have to be edited. And we will see you again next time on askLRR.